Hey everybody, it's the Commodore from the Clan of the Grey Wolf, and you are watching the 12th installment of the weekly Wringer series for the first week of March 2011. Well, last week we had a tremendous amount of conversation around the IBM Watson winning Jeopardy. Great, very high-level conversation. Thought that was wonderful. And this week I wanted to follow it up with something a little bit more silly and stupid, so I asked the question about our superhero friends Batman and Spiderman, and we had a little bit of a war erupt online, but that's okay. That's exactly what the Wringer is all about. Lots of great thoughts around that. I will talk about your contributions, and then I will talk, as I always do, about my thoughts on the subject. And lastly, we will move for this week into a question about the biggest technology announcement, arguably, from the week. And that will set us up for next week's Weekly Wringer. So, as I mentioned last week, the question surrounded, it was just another one of those silly, put them against each other, fair or unfair kinds of questions. Batman or Spider-Man? Now, we had a lot of interesting conversation surrounding that. And I want to talk about some of the things that you guys really brought up in the comments during the course of the week. First of all, the war that erupted. First of all, I want to say, welcome to Red Scores. Welcome to the community. Glad that you're a part, and glad you came right in with the contributions. And Estolia definitely gave you a tremendous welcome this week, where you guys were going back and forth there for a little while. Don't mind that on the Wringer at all, and don't feel, guys, like if you put your opinion and you drop what you have to say in there that you're finished now, and that we don't want to hear your opinion moving forward. We absolutely do. So feel free to keep commenting. I love to see those comment strings get up over 40 comments, and so it's that's been fantastic for me. All right, so let's talk about some of the things you guys brought up. I purposefully left the question open-ended. I didn't talk about necessarily who would win in a fight, or who has the best franchise, or who has the best video games, or whatever the case might be, because I wanted to see where you all were going to bring it, and you definitely kind of talked about all of those things. So let's go ahead and hear some of the great contributions you have. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say is Youngblood, awesome contribution with the idea of, if it's Batman or Spider-Man, you're going to give a dissenter's opinion and say Gambit. Fantastic answer. I love that, as always. Thank you for the contribution. The X-Men were definitely my favorite growing up, and although I think the movies have spoiled that, to some extent, Gambit has always been probably my favorite X-Man besides Wolverine. I guess I'm just simple and easy in that regard. So, other than that, now getting to the comments that actually pertain to the question for this week, this was the first week, got to give big props to Estolia for saying, for bringing the first full-blown fan fiction account of what would happen in a fight between Spider-Man and Batman. That's pretty cool. So we've never had that on the Weekly Wringer series. Keep those kinds of ideas coming. I love that we've helped to spawn some creativity there. It was a very nuanced explanation provided by Estolia there. You guys should definitely read it if you have not done so already. It's entertaining to say the least. And then moving on to the second, where it was kind of like the second scenario, I was like, you know what, I've already made one up. There's no reason to move on. Awesome contribution. Thank you so much for doing so. And even the video later on, providing wonderful evidence from all over the internet. That's exactly what it's all about, even if it's just a YouTube video from the animated series Batman cartoon, which was fantastic, by the way. Both of these series actually have some tremendous lineage in terms of both movies and having cartoon series that were very, very good. The animated series for both of these during the 90s were just great series, and some of my favorites from that decade as well. So there it's kind of a dead heat, although I would probably say I really did enjoy the Batman animated series a little bit better because of Mark Hamill. But that's neither here nor there. I know that's getting into my opinion, and I want to focus on some of the things that you guys talked about. So, but while we're on the idea of who would in a fight, obviously Estolia talked about Batman, and we had, I think, a great defense from Red Scores. about Spider-Man winning in a fight, and we had different opinions on both sides. I think both of them present tremendous arguments. It's really hard to pick one based on the criteria that you all gave. Batman is kind of he's more of the kind of brains over brawn. He's trying to figure out the way that he can beat Spider-Man, taking a lot of time to do so, using the gadgetry that he has, the training, all those kinds of combined elements. Spidey's more of just a brawler, just make it happen, try to maybe find a scenario in which he could wrap Batman up in a way, or try to find a way that he could get the upper hand through really just brute strength, because obviously he's going to be stronger. Superhuman, as one of you pointed out, which I think is absolutely correct. So we get the fight dynamic going on. In terms of you guys also talked about who the cooler character is. That seems to be a hands down winner for Batman, and I think I understand the arguments there as well. At least in the community, I think you guys all decided that the cooler character is Batman. You like the kind of darker character over the kind of witty, fun-loving, more childish character. The coming-of-age story that is Spider-Man, and that kind of is where that whole story really kind of does come to light. It's more of a coming-of-age story. Batman's more of the justice, the vengeance kind of aspect of I'm going to fight crime because no one else will. And so it's a kind of interesting story, and I like what you guys talked about there a whole lot. Now, in terms of the film lineage, those kinds of things, I'm not sure there was a real preference stated in the community. I don't know if you guys really highlighted that a whole lot, but there are movies that are good and probably not so good on both sides. And who knows what would really win in the end, although I think you guys as a community really did say that the newer Batman movies are something that you like more than the newer Spider-Man movies. I think that one could probably go either way as well. I could see arguments on both sides, but I'm glad you guys brought that up. One thing, there was a little bit of talk about the original NES Batman, right? So the Batman for NES was a great, great game. Any of you that haven't played it, as was said, you should definitely take a look at it. It's fantastic. It's very challenging. As I remember, it was pretty tough. But that just maybe me remembering from a kid. Very tough game to play, but it was a lot of fun. Inventory, a lot of the gadget stuff, and really it was just kind of a beat 'em up that really captured the spirit of Batman. And I'm not sure any of the games until very recently, until the movies came out. I'm not sure any of the video games of the past really captured Spider-Man in any kind of real way. Being able to sling your way around New York was a pretty sweet deal, and I did like that later on in some of the other games. That was almost more fun than any of the things that Spider-Man actually did, the missions or anything else. It really didn't make any difference. So anyway, that was what you guys brought up in the community, and rather than try to poke around it any longer, why don't I just tell you what I think. First and foremost, Wired Magazine really tried to present both sides of this, and what I'm going to say is I am going to agree and I'm going to disagree with some of the pieces that you guys have brought up in the video, or I'm sorry, in response to the video, in response to the Weekly Ringer from last week. Because I think the question is definitely nuanced. If you're talking about a fight, I'm absolutely going to say hands down. And you guys did a tremendous job arguing both sides. I just want to say that right from the get-go. I considered all the evidence in this case. But I just don't think there's a contest, guys. If there's a fight between these two, Spider-Man wins, hands down. He likes superhuman strength. Yes, Estolia, I understand the armor. I get it. I understand that whole thing. But for me, strength is not why Spider-Man wins this fight. That certainly helps. Spider-Man wins this fight because of the webbing. Spider-Man wins this fight because of agility. Spider-Man wins this fight because of his ability to really... I mean, what does Batman have to really counter Spider-Man's constant ability to barrage him with the webs and really set that kind of a trap, and then just pummel the hell out of him? I'm not saying Batman hasn't gotten out of those kinds of situations before. He certainly has. But to my mind, Spider-Man wins 9 times out of 10 when these guys fight, and to me, it's not even a competition. But I love the argument on both sides, and but I just got to go with Spider-Man on that. That being said, the question was not Batman versus Spider-Man in a fight. The question was Batman or Spider-Man.